Kamen Rider Gummi. Kamen Rider Gummi.
Kamen Rider is at its best, in my opinion, when there is a deeper, explorable theme embedded in the season, where the concepts become so synonymous with the season that it becomes near impossible to separate them. For example, the first Kamen Rider, which came out in 1971. Takeshi Hongo, a promising science student and motorcycle racer, is kidnapped by the nefarious Shocker. After turning the man into an unwitting cyborg, he escapes before the final brainwashing can happen. From then on, he vows to bring Shocker down. The themes are kind of obvious here: self-identity and justice. These inform nearly everything in the show, and while in most media this is a given, in superhero stories it's never a guarantee. All you have to do is look at some of the major superheroes and see that their powers have nothing to do with the themes and the stories and the character arcs. Superman's powers of heat vision and super cold breath have nothing to do with being a better person and leading by example. Spider-Man's powers have nothing to do with the great power, great responsibility stuff. Hell, some of the powers are antithetical to the themes present, like Iron Man's themes of taking responsibilities for actions that have caused violence by Tony Stark creating a suit that causes new kinds of violence. Tony, I don't think you know what you're doing here. I'm not saying these characters and stories are bad. I'm just saying it feels like the themes, the stories, and the character arcs are all developed in separate places from the powers the characters receive. But this latest season of Kamen Rider, known as Ex-Aid, feels like everything was baked beautifully into a wonderful pound cake. The way I view Kamen Rider seasons is that the elements need to act like a well-rounded Pokemon team, with everyone taking care of another one's weaknesses. The themes inform the characters, while the characters inform the powers, and the powers add to the theme. This creates a foundation so that nearly everything in the season can feel right and justified, and Ex-Aid nails all three of these. Kamen Rider Ex-Aid follows the story of Emu, a young medical intern, as he becomes a Kamen Rider in order to fight off the Bugster virus, an illness that mutated from computer viruses. He is joined by other medical professionals to fight the virus. Kamen Rider Ex-Aid's major motif, however, is video games, not medicine. So how does this create a unified theme? Because on paper it sounds like a cluster. Well, there's a third element that I'll get to in a minute, so for now I'll just go more into the characters. First, obviously, is Emu. He's young, idealistic, and simply wishes to return people's smiles to them by making them healthy. However, it wasn't too long ago that he was known as the semi-pro gamer M. But after a mysterious surgery, he cut back on playing video games in order to focus on medicine. He transforms into the rider known as Ex-Aid, whose design is based off of mascot platformers of the 90s.
No!
But there are three other main riders. Hero is a no-nonsense surgeon who prefers to keep patients at arm's length. However, it is hinted that he wasn't always so cold. He transforms into Kamen Rider Brave, a form based off of old-school JRPGs. Taiga is no longer a doctor, after his medical license was revoked before the series start. With a chip on his shoulder, he forces his way into fighting the Bugster virus. He transforms into Kamen Rider Snipe, an FPS-based hero, making use of his impeccable aim as a radiologist. Kirya is a coroner, searching for clues about the Bugster virus, and its strange links to Emu. However, he is sly about his investigation, thus coming off as untrustworthy. He transforms into Kamen Rider Laser, a form based off of racing games. This makes the form slightly impractical though, as he turns into a motorcycle. And I regret to inform any of you who don't watch Kamen Rider, he's not the first Kamen Rider to do that. Superheroes are weird. Rounding out this core group is Dan Kuroto, the CEO of the game company that makes the games that act as the riders' power-ups. And Poppy People Poppo. I got that the first time, holy crap. Is a surprisingly good Bugster who acts as a nurse. And Perudo, a nasty Bugster who hangs around Kuroto, showing that both of them have some nefarious plans. All the powers are based off of game genres, or just direct parodies of specific games. Some of them include an ode to Puyo Puyo, another to Monster Hunter. And if you play video games, nearly every one of the power-ups will make you think, oh, it's supposed to be that game. All these elements are admittedly disparate. In all likelihoods, this shouldn't work. But everything comes to focus when you realize who the final villain of the show is. They are a corporate businessman who views the other characters as products, who hopes to take over the world by forcing people to buy his company's death game and having them all play it. Still not seeing it? Well, what if I were to remind you that Japan has a universal healthcare system, thus technically making doctors something like state employees? Kamen Rider Ex-Aid is the story of several doctors, as agents of the government, fighting against a capitalist searching only for monetary gain. Only by reclaiming the art and accepting how said art was created do they stand a chance to beat this corporate corruption. But what about the video game power-ups? They represent two things: art and its relationship with people and corporation, and second, as a stand-in for major pharmaceuticals. And either I just intrigued the fuck out of you, or I just made you go, this guy is a dumbass. The powers are all typical video game references. The majority of these powers were created by Dan Kuruto, the CEO of Gundam Corp. However, these powers were not created with pure altruism in mind. No. As we learn, and spoilers by the way, but why are you watching this? If you don't already know the show, that's kind of imperative. I mean, I can't tell you to stop, but spoilers. It's a spoiler. That not only did he create these powers to gather data for a scheme, but also started the Bugster virus on its destructive path in the first place. At the end of this whole thing, we learned that the games were made just for the sake of making them. Once his father shows up, however, the games are twisted for a completely different intention. This in turn makes Kuruto realize the damage that his games can inflict, and he takes a, let's just say, manic responsibility to protecting these games, and his vision for them. Going so far as to say that any powers not graced by his creation are invalid, and thus need to be destroyed. But once he is free of the corporate control, he is able to make what he deems fit without any baggage. This freedom allows him to explore ideas more freely, which in turn creates some of the most powerful abilities in the show. This is similar to some real-life situations where the lack of major corporate oversight allows for major innovations. Take, for example, Image Comics. When the artists felt dissatisfied with their rights as artists, they went and created a foundation for creator-owned comic publishing. This parallels many real-world artists' relationship with large corporations. Some creations become massive, and may even be manipulated to the point that they offer a different idea than the intended one. Take, for example, Death Note's seemingly unnecessary continuation, and how the creators even admit that they wanted to end it earlier, as they alluded to in Bakuman, or a more direct parallel with Hideo Kojima Metal Gear and the Konami kerfuffle. I'm proud of that last one. I'm proud of Konami kerfuffle. I don't know why, I just love it. Art being manipulated against the will of the creator, and being sent out into the world without the artist's word on the matter, is often a major form of grief on the heroes later on in the season. Take, for example, how Masamune manipulates the Chronicle Gashat to allow him to become the time-stopping badass who basically stomps all over the heroes. That is, until the heroes learn how to take back control of the art at their disposal, and subvert Chronicle's power. But that's not even including the fact that even without the video game elements, the powers would still function as representation of medicine and its relationship to large corporations. Many of today's modern medicines could only have been created with corporate funding. The heroic doctor's only real option for helping victims is to use this exclusive medicine. That is, until Emu finds other ways of treatment, here represented by his creation of a power-up. However, this angers Kuruto, being the corporate entity who funded the medicine, feeling as if it infringes on his intellectual idea. This whole exchange could represent how corporations might hold on to patents and discoveries in order to maximize profits. Now, when looking at the characters with these thoughts in mind, certain aspects become clearer. The Bugsters are literally corporate entities, with only 3 of them appearing human: Parod, Poppy, and Graphite. The fact that they also all represent games that they come from as well is another way to show how companies can harmfully control the art at their disposal. Throughout the show, we learn that they and the rest of the Bugsters are acting the way they do mainly due to corporate control. For the ones that do not appear as humans and give in to their destructive tendencies, it could be a representation of the adherence to a corporate brand. The more human Bugsters arcs are focused on recognizing the basic aspects of themselves, while realizing that those same aspects don't define them as people. Graphite recognizes that, in fact, he is a warrior, but lets go of the anger he has towards humans at the end of his life. While Poppy struggles with the perceived idea that Bugster's existence is predicated on violence. Only realizing that she defines what being a Bugster means for her, is she able to fully accept who she is. Parod, though, must come to terms that Bugsters were not created in opposition to humanity, but together with human growth. All these arcs reflect some aspect of our relationship with corporate media, whether it be accepting it for what it is, realizing that we define it just as much as companies do, or coming to terms with the fact that inevitably it is a part of our popular culture. The 4 main riders, however, all show how people interact with state and corporate system. Kirya is a subversive, working against both the governmental body that is providing resources for the Kamen Riders and Genom Corp, who is making said resources. He ultimately gets himself killed in the process though. Though there is an interesting thing I'll get to in just a bit. Taiga and Hiro are both two sides of the same ideal, abandon one half of the system in favor of the other. Taiga fully envelops himself in the world of these games and the battles that he fights with them. Hiro views them and other similar things as beneath him. Only when they let the influence of the others into their life are they able to keep a balance and help fight the big bad. Emu, however, explores the balance throughout the series. This is done with his connection to Parod. By working together, they explore how one can interact with these systems, but acknowledge how both need to be understood in order to forge a new future. This is why when Kirya passes on his hope to Emu, it makes thematic sense. It shows us, the audience, that abandonment is not the way to win, but acknowledgement is. I could go on a ton longer just on Emu and Parod. I feel like that's a video for another day. Is that a drop? I don't know. I may make it one day, who knows? But ultimately, what is the story trying to say? I believe it's trying to say that we, society at large, are in control of the art we consume, whether it be through acknowledging its corporate presence or complete subversion of it. That we are not beholden to the ideas that companies present to us. But it also tells us to keep vigilant, because these companies, if they get away with it, would treat us like chickens in a coop, sitting there being fed whatever they give us, and being nothing more than a fat, plump profit at the end of the day. That was my Kamen Rider video. It took a long while to make, mainly because I just kept bouncing off of it for a little bit. Hope you enjoyed it. Next video about a YouTuber will be about Ashens, so keep a lookout for that. I'm also getting into another video subject series, but I kind of want to keep that under the belt until it's made. If you like this video, make sure to like it, comment, subscribe, do all the things. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. And that's it.